What if burnout isn't a sign that you're breaking down, but a sign that you've been building your life out of alignment? Today's guest is Rhonda Parmer. She's a strategic alignment coach, educator, and creator of the EASE method. And she's going to tell us how to use this method, what burnout is, how leaders in this world are functioning burnt out, and giving us tips on how to manage it. So stick around till the end. So I want to get straight into it. Rhonda, you work with leaders who refuse to burn out. When did you first realize burnout wasn't just an individual issue, but it's a systematic one?
Yes. Hi. Yes, Lisa, so glad to be here. Thank you for that. And I will tell you, just real quick, Reader's Digest version, 31 years of public education, the last 12 working directly with the high administrative leaders. It was more prevalent than I could even dream to know
Mm,
these principals, assistant principals, directors, executives were just running on fumes. They did a great job of hiding it, but I just thought, what if there was a way to make it better where they still were successful, but they also still had their life back? So I just kind of started picking around and playing around and figuring out what worked, looked for those patterns, and eventually came up with this ease system that we'll talk about today.
nice. What were the early signs in your own life that told you something was essentially out of alignment?
I hate to admit this, but I have been a chronic workaholic probably since I was 14. And I did that
Mm,
as an escape. So you hear a lot of people, self-medicate with lots of things, and I just chose work. Whether it was organizing the soup cabinet or the towels or the sheets or cleaning out my closet, even though it didn't need to be cleaned or whatever, just something to get my mind off of other things. So that pattern continued through college, through my first years as a teacher, and then my very first year as a principal. I was diagnosed with two types of cancers. And I remember thinking, okay, I don't want to tell anybody. I don't want to show weakness. I'll just, go get my treatments and get back here and get back to work. And my husband and my doctor were like, well, your hair is going to fall out. So you better be ready to tell them something. And I can
mm.
honestly remember sitting in the living room and truly role playing and rehearsing how I was going to tell people that I worked with that not only was I sick, but I was going to need help because that was not in my vernacular. Even though now looking back, I had a ton of people helping me and I have gone back to thank them. But from 14 to 30, I was just, on my own. I'm doing this, I'm making this happen. It's because I work so hard, blah, blah. And life taught me, no, it's not. So I had to just sit back, settle down, take the treatments, ask for help, receive help. Simon Sinek tells us that's the mark of a great leader when you can ask for and receive help. It is hard, very hard when you're the leader because you have all these stipulations, societal stipulations. You're the leader. You shouldn't ask for help. You got there because you're the one, and you ought to know all the answers. And all of those things are just not true and they lead to burnout. And even if you can fake it long enough where you can still stay true at work and still have that image, then you go home and you're just disconnected or alone, or even though there's lots of people, you're alone, or it's just there's so many things that happen. And that cancer diagnosis is really what woke me up.
Yeah, wow. Um, I love that you just talked about all of that because I know that a lot of people can relate to that and I don't want to leave out the men, but I know a lot of women like that who are like put so much pressure on themselves to do everything and be everything. And the hardest part is sitting down with someone and saying, you know what, I don't got this. I'm not okay. I
Yes.
remember when I was in my 30s and I had to ask for like an hour of time off, and I never had done that before. I was literally like shaking. And I'm like, I don't even want to do this, but I had to get this time off. It was like a medical appointment. And literally, I was terrified. And in my mind, I was like, why am I so worried about this? Like, it's just ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
It's sad. It's just that's been pounded into us through everything in society over the last 70 years. And we've just got to break that and realize that's not sustainable, as noted. I mean, we're in a leadership shortage right now. And I can see why. I mean, people outside looking in are saying, "No way, I'm not going to live like that," and they don't have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I remember making these like strategies of like, I wonder if they would notice if I'm going a little bit longer so I don't have to tell anybody anything. And then you start like getting anxious about that. And yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I have an interesting question. So you talk a lot about alignment being the antidote to burnout. So I'm curious how you define alignment and why is it missing in high achieving leaders' lives?
Okay, that's a great question, Lisa, because there are so many different things, facets for alignment. And I do talk a lot about many different facets, but for this conversation and thinking about business executives, aspiring leaders, middle managers who have a team, the alignment is what where I define it is getting people's strengths aligned with the values and the goals of the organization. So there's several tests. I'm a DISC certified and behavior analyst certified for John Maxwell. So we can use the DISC, but there's some people like, oh, I've already done that. I did that last year. I did that 10 years ago. So I have other tools that people can use, but you basically figure out what strengths and what things people like on your team. It's amazing when I talk to a new leader. Maybe they're not a new leader in that role of leadership, obviously, but they just got a promotion to a new bank or whatever. But they've been in banking, but they just got a new promotion. So they have a new team. And they're running through strategies and running through goals and doing all these tasks, but they haven't even stopped to talk to their folks and figure out what their people like or what they are strong in. Even though
Yeah.
I might be over HR, maybe the person who just left put me in HR, but really my strength is communications. So what low hanging fruit, can you figure out? But so first it is know your people. So if you're thinking about my ease formula, it's engage with the people. What are their strengths? What are the values of the organization? What are the goals? And how can we put people in the right seats? You've heard that, people get on the right seat of the bus. That is step one. And then the second piece of that is writing down the roles and responsibilities because it's one thing to say, oh, Lisa's our production manager. Okay, but what does that mean? What are the roles and responsibilities? And I remember this was this week, as a matter of fact, I was talking to a man this week, and I remember just listening and listening and listening. I was trying to just let him get all this out of what he thought was the problem. And at the very end, I said, do you have a roles and responsibilities chart or anything to that of that nature? And he said, no, we don't really thrive on titles and stuff like that. We're just sort of a flat organization and we want anybody to be able to go to anybody. And I said,
Mm.
okay, yeah, I see that I can see some value in that, but everything that you've just described as your problem is a result of not having clear roles and responsibilities. It doesn't mean that one is over the other. You can still have a flat organization. Everybody's equally as important. None of them evaluate each other, but can they each know what each one is a specialist in or what their favorites are or how they like to work? So that's kind of the very first thing that I get out there with when I'm working with a team. From there, from that alignment, the other piece of that misalignment is when the leader does one of two things. Mostly this first one, they try to do everything themselves. So let's go back to that bank example. Let's say I'm just going to make up a name. Rob is a teller. After a couple of years, he's the manager of the tellers. After a couple of years, he's a loan officer. And after a few years, he's the executive director over this piece of operations. And through all of those, he was very good at doing tasks and getting things done and teaching people about those tasks. But by the time he got up to executive, even manager, but by the time he got up to executive, he had never gone through any of the leadership preparation to deal with people problems, like
Mm.
someone's not coming in on time, or they're showing up but they're disengaged, or they're outwardly defiant. And he never had any training on how to address those problems. He was very good at everything that had to do with the bank. So my program then determines, when we go through those steps, we figure out, where is the misalignment? Is it that your team hasn't been aligned to the task, or is it that you're still trying to do everything that you used to do before? So are you micromanaging accidentally? And then the other piece is, this rarely happens, but a person gets promoted and then they don't do anything.
Right.
They just, I've arrived and y'all do it. Well, I told you to do it. And so there's no, they're they're disconnected. There's no, people can see that immediately. Like, okay, you're the boss, but you're not with us. You're above us. You're not with us. And a great leader has to be of and above at the same time. So it's just an interesting dynamic, that alignment shift. And so I am proposing an alignment revolution in our country, because, well, in the world, but because when you have a leader who is either accidentally micromanaging or accidentally ignoring the assets on their team, they will burn out. It's not a matter of
Hmm.
if, but when. And
Hmm.
when they burn out, since they haven't been doing the proper people development, is there someone below them that can come fill that seat? Have they developed that pipeline to have a natural leader come in, either within their organization, or have they defined the role well enough that they could get someone from the outside to do the same? So that's where I am, and that's what I hope to lead, an alignment revolution to prevent burnout, build our leadership benches, and make sure we're good to go in every organization, nonprofit, churches, schools, businesses.
Yeah, I love it. So, can you walk us through your signature framework, like the ease method? Can you let us know what that stands for and a little bit more about why you created it?
Yes, and I'm going to tie this into one of those techniques I talk about preventing burnout. So once we first, I'll tell you real quick. It is, EASE stands for engage, align, simplify, and empower. And these are the core pillars of building the leadership bench and making sure that the leader is doing, that they spend their time doing only the things that only they can do. I'll use this as a in a school setting example. As a taxpayer, I do not want the principal mowing the yard, even though they may love riding on that lawnmower. They can do it on the weekend or whatever, but I don't
I'm
want them
picturing
taking
him, I'm
time.
picturing like a man in a suit right now, like cutting the grass at a school.
you know, I mean, but but anyway, engage, align, simplify, and empower. Those four things will help a leader in any task. And here's how this is designed. I use that as a rubric for every single leadership task you can think of: budgeting, sales, marketing, holding a meeting, grabbing more business partners, scheduling, creating a roles and responsibilities chart. And this tool that I'm about to go over, where I'll define the ease in context, is weekly check ins. And the weekly check in is the very next thing that I do as part of alignment in the ease system. So once we've already surveyed the staff, figured out what they're strong in, what they like, what feels natural to them, align that with our values and our goals and our activities, then we go into this weekly check-in. And you ought to see the looks on the faces of some of the leaders when I say you're going to have a weekly check-in. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm already running on empty. Didn't you hear? I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this." And I just say, wait, time out. Then, if you don't have time to do this, do you have time to retrain new people? Do you have time to redo work that other people have done? Do you have time to, you know, sit around and bellyache? I mean, there's just, think about what I'm asking you, and then I teach them how to do this. So for the weekly check-in, it's the same four pillars: engage, align, simplify, and empower. But it's basically just boils down to a few questions. So, for example, Lisa, if we were working on a project together, the engage, obviously, that's pretty friendly. It's just a little friendly chat. Hi, how are you doing? What are you working on? How can I help you? That's just super fast. And then we get into align, simplify, and empower. So what's going well? What challenges do you have? What resources do you need? What do we need to drop? and then go back to that thing that you already asked, even though when you ask it at the beginning of the meeting, they're saying, I don't know how you can help me. But by the time you've gone over challenges, celebrations, and what can you drop, then you ask again, how can I help you? That's that empower. Then they've either got a list of things they need or that need help on, or they feel totally empowered to just move on. And part of that is clarifying the decision points, like who who's going to be able to make the decisions that come up in this project. Do you make them on your own and you just go? Do we need to collaborate and we come up with this together, or is this something you need to come to me and I either have to go higher or I have to be the one to make the decision? But in those meetings, in those check-ins, you clarify that kind of thing. the the team members feel empowered and they feel heard, they feel part of it, they feel like they're finally getting to do what they were called to do, or they get clarity and get out. Like, this isn't what I wanted to do, and now that I see which direction you're going, I'm out. So all of
Right.
those are benefits that help the leader. And so that does take, a good 5 to 10 minutes with every person. So if you talk about your core team, you might have anywhere from 1 to 12 people on your core team. But I just propose doing that every week, a weekly check-in with all of them. And by the time you finish, if you have a big, big team, it might take you all day. But that's going to provide that constant communication, clarity, alignment. You can spot stuff before it starts to get too big. You can clarify and answer questions. If you don't have those kind of meetings and a person, let's say you have your first meeting where you talk about the project and the deliverables, and then you don't talk to them again for another 3 or 4 weeks, they've gone all that time either in a misconception or maybe misunderstood or no pats on the back, and it's just not as engaging. And so
Right.
I just propose to use this system with an easy script so you can prevent problems before they blow up.
Why do you think most people get stuck before they find your method? And which part of the process is hardest for the leaders to face or acknowledge?
Okay, this is a good question, and I'm going to be speaking for myself. Okay, and some of the patterns that I have seen is that sometimes it's an ego. It is that
Mm,
it's part of that mental frame that we talked about at the very beginning of our show here, that we're programmed almost to think that you're supposed to be superhuman and you cannot make a mistake, and you know and the other piece of that is what I've noticed. Let me finish that thought first. So there's this misaligned framework in our heads about what are the true expectations and what's real. And then there's the fact of well, I said ego, and I want to just clarify that because I don't want anybody to think I think everybody's egotistical if they're a leader and they're not asking for help, because I don't. But I know it's hard to ask for help. It's hard for a friend to even ask for help. I praised my friend last week who called and said, "Will you come help me put up my lights? I can't get on the ladder anymore." And she's just talking about in her house, just putting a few little things up higher. But that took a lot for her to do, and I praised her for doing that. But your original question, why do they get stuck? I truly believe it's they don't want to admit it. They think that they have to do things themselves. If they're delegating, if they're in this problem of feeling overwhelmed and they're delegating the wrong things. They're delegating to give themselves relief, even though they still feel overwhelmed. If they're truly delegating to build other people, they give themselves relief, but it costs a little bit more time because you have to train someone. So you have to
mm,
develop them. If you don't develop them and you don't train them, you're robbing them of their learning and of their future chances of getting promoted. And if people could just reframe, look, I cannot do all this on my own. I'm not supposed to do all this on my own. It's going to take me time to train up my team and help them with what I expect. And we got to come up with those expectations and what does that look like together. So we want the leader to be the visionary, but they have to paint that picture so well that other people felt like they also painted it because
right.
they did.
Right.
And part of it
So,
is just admit that you can't do it by yourself. That's what I was talking about. From 14 till I was 30, I wasn't doing everything myself, but I thought I was. So I
Yeah.
never asked anybody for help. People were helping me, but I didn't acknowledge them. And I feel guilty and ashamed of that now, but I've gotten over it. I've asked for forgiveness and moved on. But that was 15 years of my 16 years of my life that I accidentally mistreated people or egotistically thought I was doing everything on my own and burned out, completely burned out. I would say if you have two types of cancer and you can't do your job anymore, you're burned. so so
Yeah.
my whole point is to help people become aware that number one, it's okay to say you don't know everything and you're not doing everything yourself. That's real life. But how are you a leader and how are you inspiring and building other people to come in with you to get this stuff done? And it
Yeah.
can be done.
Do you have a moment or like a personal story or a client story where that alignment for them really clicked in and you were able to see the burnout release?
Hmm. Yes. Okay. So I had a museum director who they had all kinds of financial issues, and you could say it was the economy or the weather, or we had these major storms down here and different things happening that were pretty bad and they impacted. But um, but the truth was, the leader was burning out and kind of falling on those um, excuses, too relying on them too much. Like that's the reason that's the reason they're burned out. Um, And so once we first went through exactly like I told you, we went through the disc where we just took all of the executives from the museum. What are your strengths? What are the things you love? Even though you might be in the education department, what other part of the museum life do you love? Because that could be someone you partner with on a different project. And this is the analogy I always use. Like we love football down here, so in football, our quarterback knows, they're paid to do their job, take the ball and either pass it or hand it off. They're the star of the game. They're the pivotal position, just like a leader at an organization. And I don't want to pay my quarterback to practice punting because that's not his role. Punting is important, or kicking an extra field goal, all that stuff is important, but it's not his role. So that's what we did with our museum executives, and so much came to light. It was just a matter of taking that veil of darkness off of, instead of people being pigeonholed by their title, they started to come together through their interest and what they could achieve, what drove them, what was their passion. Here's their thing that they're good at and that they love because that's their job. But in the whole organization of all the things we need, how can you cross paths and work with different people? And it was just like, I'm going to just use this analogy. It was like when you see a dog that's in a lake and they're too far away from the from the edge, and they can't make it,
Yeah.
and they're not really making headway. They're just moving their arms. They're not really dog paddling and getting anywhere. They're just doing like this, slapping. That's what it felt like that museum director was doing at first. And then it felt like he was on the side of the lake telling everybody how to do their orchestrated moves. I mean, it was just
Right.
so perfect that it was just a matter of communicating and figuring out what people loved to do. And when he found out what they loved, he could, because he knew the whole big picture, he could start moving these chess pieces a little bit different places. And all that did is just remove the silos of people working alone. And by working, and here's the deal too. When I talk about that meeting, so I talk about weekly check-ins. That's one-on-one with each of those people. But then there's like a bi-weekly or at least monthly. Sometimes people do it weekly team meeting. And that just builds that momentum where people get to celebrate. There's no agenda. It's just a celebrate and what do I need? Because even though that's what the leader does with their check-ins, again, let's just say I'm the leader and I'm checking in with you, Lisa. And on our one-on-ones, I'm thinking when you said, okay, I need help with marketing. Okay, well, have you done this or whatever? But when you say that again in front of other people, their little perspectives and experiences and knowledge about what's going on may have a different solution. So it just 10x's the solution draw, for getting things done. And my whole mantra is get your team aligned so you can get things done and go home early. So I mean,
Yeah, it sounds like the alignment that you teach changes like the whole decision-making process, boundaries, and the overall energy of the entire place.
yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah,
And when people I know I've worked in lots of organizations, and different roles, and there's a lot of people out there who say, "Oh, I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need any credit. I just want to get this stuff done." That might be true, but when you do give them credit or when you do pat them on the back, it goes for miles and it'll just inspire them even more. So, Lisa, what a great job you did on that marketing campaign. We were able to bypass our shares and likes and views. Thank you so much for what you did. You may not have needed that, but once you got it, it was like, whoa, okay, I am getting noticed. And it's not about getting noticed, it's about fueling what tasks need to be done so we can go home. But if you use
right,
that psychology, the true psychology, that human touch, that I'm a real person and I see you, another real person, doing something real that makes an impact. It's just slowing
right.
down to slowing down and taking that time to talk. So many leaders, they'll say, I don't have time, man. I barely have enough time to even hold my regular meeting and get all this stuff done. And to them, I say, well, you're gonna have to figure it out. You might be you I say you're not burned out from doing too many things. You're burned out from doing too many of the wrong things. So
Right.
let's audit. So that's another thing I'll do. Let's audit your calendar, audit your emails, audit your phone calls. How much time are you spending on phone calls? How much time are you spending on emails? What systems can we put in place to automatically remove certain emails? Or, can your assistants or other people take care of some of these phone calls? Because I want the top leader, the top manager, top CEO, C-suite person, or whatever, doing only the things that only they can do.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I say they should be able to get them done in 3 hours a day. So I have this plan called the 3 hour workday, and the rest of their time is developing other people.
I love that. And it must be really rewarding to see an organization shift and change like that. But I do also see that this is really becoming a worldwide issue, like from executives, educators, and even to parents. Why do you think burnout is accelerating globally at such a high level and high rate?
Hmm. I don't know. I know, thank God. I mean, if there's only one good thing that came out of COVID, it was the self-care movement. So, I mean, thank God
Amen. Eh?
people,
Yeah,
you know,
totally. Totally.
at least it stopped it from just completely going out of control. But I think it is, again, I just go back, I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think it just goes back to that programming that we've had for the last 70 years through media, through movies and music and TV and books, that it's just this machine that can just do all these things, and that you're not successful unless you are doing them. And you got your badge of honor for working 12 to 14 hours a day, and I skipped lunch today, and all these things that people say, that when
Oh
I,
yeah,
I
the
used
one
to
of
say
like,
them.
yeah, I barely slept last night, but I'm still at the office, burning the
Yes,
midnight oil. And
yes,
it was
all of those
cool
burning.
to say.
Yes, think of all those sayings, and burning the candle on both ends and burning the midnight oil. I'm working on 2 hours of sleep, and I
Yeah,
used to
I
say
just went
every
for
one
my
of them.
third espresso of the day.
Yes, yes. And so, how do we change that? I think we've got to. That's where I'm coming with my alignment revolution. That we slow down and get back to talking and get people doing the right types of things, and detune and disconnect. And another one of the things I talk about in that ease framework, one of them is a work-life balance. And literally, like, can you spend 5 minutes without your phone, without the TV, without any noise, just 5 minutes barefooted somewhere, either in your room, in your living room, in the backyard, on a beach, just 5 minutes. And you would be shocked. Like 25 seconds, people are like, well, what do I do for the rest of the time? Just
Yeah.
be, just breathe, and just imagine great things and think about, your best vacation, or think about something that you want to do in the future. I mean, it's so sad that so many people are just burning through tasks and not even taking time to reflect about what they're doing, why they're doing it, who they're helping along the way. It's just burning the days. And one day they'll be sorry about that. But so let's stop it now.
Mm. I love that. And I was just going to ask, what does a fully aligned person look like? Like, what is everyday life like? Because another thing is that when someone is used to that chaos of always burning the midnight oil, as we talked about, and then all of a sudden they're not doing that anymore, that can be a little bit jarring as well. So, what does a fully aligned method, your method, do? And what does life look like when it is aligned?
Okay. You're so good, Lisa. You are so good. Okay. So you can give up the idea of ever having a well-balanced day in time in terms of minutes. So, I mean, the facts are the facts. You need to sleep 6 to 8 hours ish. You need to work 8 to something hours ish, and then you got those other 8 hours to get ready and, you know, get other things done for your family. But if you could think of a balanced month. And so I think about this for parents and everybody who has a 9 to 5 job or whatever. So you get your month at a glance. You know when you have either a board meeting or an event, a work event, or a school event for parents. So block out your calendar of the things that you know are coming up. But as soon as you block all of the obligations for either work or school or your students or whatever, your kids or whatever, then deliberately block downtime. Deliberately, like we used to, like there's a whole line of dating coaches who say deliberately make a date night for people who are married, so you
Yeah,
can
with
still
kids.
feel that
Yeah,
feeling,
so important.
Yeah, like you have to be conscientious about this and deliberate. And so this is the going back to your earlier question, like why are so many people burned out? It's because they're not consciously taking time to do things that are meaningful. They're just subconsciously running through all their tasks, even though they might be super organized, have a color coded calendar, have a list of things they have to do. It's just get stuff done, get stuff done, get stuff done. And I'm speaking because I used to do this very same thing, but it takes your life. And life is more than getting things done. I mean, I want you to get things done, but I want you to get them done so you can go home.
Right.
And spend time with yourself or your friends or your family or something that you enjoy that helps you calm your nerves and everything back down so that you can regulate in that chaos, that you're not utterly in chaos 24/7, because that's when our cells get out of alignment and spine gets out of alignment and nervous system gets all jacked up. So we have to take back that control. We've been controlled by media for way too long. So how can we deliberately, and I'm not even talking about politics right there. I hope I just said that. And I was like, oh God, does that sound political? No, I just mean like even commercials and subliminal stuff and arrows and flashing lights and you need this or it's going away in 3 minutes or all of that
Yeah.
stuff makes us have this sense of urgency and we live our life in urgency. And my whole message is for leaders who, and a lot of times when I'm talking to leaders, okay, I work with two different types. When I'm working with CEOs, executives, and directors and that kind. But through my community work, I'm talking to students. So people, I go to Rotary meetings and Chamber of Commerce. So to me, a leader is not necessarily someone who has a job that's called leader. Like kindergarten, a kid can be a line leader, but anybody who's using that influence, anybody who has that it factor, if we could all come together and help people slow down and consciously make deliberate decisions to disconnect when we can, hand that off when you can, build that person when you can, go sit alone for a few minutes. All of these things build that alignment in yourself and alignment with your team.
Yeah,
So
someone
I
can
covered a
feel
lot.
when a leader is calm, and when the leader is calm and their nervous system is regulated, you can feel that. And it gives the team a sense of ease. But if the leader is all over the place and like jacked up on coffee and like just you can feel their stress, then it makes people uneasy. Like the
Mhm.
energy is obvious. That's amazing. I love this conversation so much. Where do people find out more information about you and your method and more of what you do?
Okay, they can find me on the web at just rhondaparmer.com. And when they're searching that, remember to put Parmer, it rhymes with farmer. Um, and then they can find me on LinkedIn, Rhonda Freeman Parmer. And the things that I love to do are I can customize a keynote speech over any topic that we've talked about today on these areas and work with the team directly. So if there's a new leader, brand new or aspiring leader, or one that has just moved to a different organization, those are really the best clients because they're trying to get control before it gets out of control. And so we'll get you in alignment with your team pretty fast. You'll notice something within 2 weeks, and then start working on some goals that follow those ease frameworks for whatever arises during those assessments.
Thank you so much. Before we go, if you could give a message to a leader who feels exhausted, overwhelmed, or stuck right now, what would you say to them?
This is going to sound shocking, but the problem is you. The problem is you care too much. You care too much, and you're carrying too much. So let's slow down and figure out how to spread those tasks, spread that development of people where you're you're watching that process and not every little task. You're watching the people task and not the business and management tasks.
Thank you so much for this really amazing conversation. It's been so much fun chatting with you. I look forward to future episodes. You're joining us for a series. We get to dive deeper into all these topics in the next coming weeks.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Yes, and to our audience, please do not forget to like and subscribe before you leave today. And if you're burnt out, you're not asking for help, cut it out. Until next time, take care, everyone.